Boom! Welcome back to the 21 Convention 2022 of Orlando, Florida, celebrating 16 years of 21 Studios and the 21 Convention live events, being held at 21 Summit Super Duper Triple event. And our next speaker is actually an alumni, a returning speaker to the 21 Convention, first speaking in 2016 at our event in Miami, Florida, and again at our 10-year anniversary in 2017. He's a returning speaker from those events. He's also the founder of Ars Amorata and the author of The Alabaster Girl. I think above and beyond that, though, he is a legend in the manosphere. He's a godfather of the manosphere, or more specifically, a godfather of the seduction community that you guys probably have heard about through all the fame and the media it's picked up over many decades. He's a true godfather of that. He's old school. I mean, this guy's been around even longer than me, and I found it in 2005 when I was still very young. I grew up watching this guy, very inspired by him when I was very young, just a teenager. So I'm very proud to have him not only at our events, but back at them again for his third time. So without further ado, please help me welcome Zan Perrion to the stage. Welcome.
Okay, here we go. Get my water. I have no PowerPoint for you guys. I don't even have a speech. That's the truth. I've been talking for 20 years on stage, as Anthony was saying, for 20 years. All around the world, and I thought, what am I going to talk about here? It's been a couple years because of coronavirus that I did talk, but it's like I have nothing that I have to earnestly say to you. You're gonna like this. So I'm just gonna riff on a few things I'm thinking about, and I'm curious about, that I love. And interesting, like Anthony was saying, that I've been doing this for a long time, 20 years. And there's something changing in me after all these years. A new phase, I guess. I'm 58 years old. I'll be 60 in a year and a half, or year or so. And I'm thinking, there's guys out there who are looking to me as a father figure, which is interesting. And part of the theme of this conference is the idea of the patriarch. The benevolent patriarch, which is a beautiful concept. And I'm shifting into a kind of a different phase where I'm thinking I don't travel as much as I used to, I don't talk as much as I used to, but I sure believe in a good message that I'm going to try and share a little bit with you, and I hope you get it. I'll just throw some ideas in the air and let it land on your shoulders and see if it resonates with you and your experience. Talking about the idea of the patriarch, my concept that I'm thinking these days is what exists. This phrase, what exists because of you? What exists because of you? Which is the concept of legacy. What does that look like? What is the concept of legacy to you in your heart? A living legacy. Not something after you're dead necessarily, but what are you creating in this world? What do you have to look forward to? I think the worst deficit in the hearts of men and women is when they don't have anything to look forward to. Nothing that they're yearning toward. And I think about what exists because of me. I have a daughter. I talked about it in the patriarch side yesterday. And I'm very private about this because she's my darling. She's the lily of the valley to me. And I adore her and I love her. And I was early 20s when she's in her 30s now. I was in my early 20s when she was born, and I didn't know how to be a dad. I was a single guy chasing girls. And she would come over 2-3 times a week, and I didn't know how to be a dad, so I just played. She'd paint my toenails, and we'd dance to Madonna. And I loved her every minute of every day. To the point where all these years that I've been speaking, nobody knows this, but for 20 years that I've been public speaking, including today, every time before I go on stage, all over the world, from South Africa to Panama to Stockholm, I always call her. Because as soon as I hear her voice, I'm good. There is nothing that can attack me when I hear her voice. You might have some naysayers. Well, you say that women are blah, blah, and you did it. Yeah, that's okay. I can live with that because I have her. And I believe in women because of her. I believe in that. I believe in the hearts. I believe in the kindness and gentleness and grace of the female spirit because of what I see in my daughter. I'm good. It gives me a lot of relaxation and comfort, and I don't feel the need to try convince you of something, you know? I just really believe it. And I also believe in men. I'm here for a good message for you guys because the world is broken. Society is in anarchy. There's no good messages, save one. What exists because of you is the thought and the process I've been sitting in, you know? I'm shifting into a phase where I'm sitting in my study. I have a study, my man cave in Romania, and I sit there in my rocking chair. I got a rocking chair now. I love it. When I was a kid, I used to sit and dream, and I would read fiction books as a kid, Tarzan books and stuff, and I would sit in a rocking chair. And all the years I've been traveling and speaking and wandering around the earth and different places, I didn't have a rocking chair. And I randomly bought one. And I realized what I've been missing all these years. I can't think without it. I do all my Zoom calls in a rocking chair. Yeah, okay, guys, let's go. I need it. So I'm shifting into a real patriarch type of phase. I can feel it. I have something to share. Gather around. And what would I say to my young self? My young self who was so lost and lonely and so alone. What would I say to him now, knowing what I know now? Incredible. I would say, blessings upon you, my son. It's going to be okay. Because I believe that's going to be okay. And I know it's going to be okay because I've seen it. I've seen a lot of things. I have a beautiful girl in Romania that I've been with for 10 years. 10 years. Long-term relationship. I showed some of you guys the text I got from her yesterday, right? 10 years, and it's got the height and the depth of devotion and admiration and love. And I tell you, it's not fair to me that I have a daughter of that beauty and a girl of that beauty, and other guys do not. That's not fair. It should be for all. So my mission is to give you some concepts and ideas that you can have it too, because it's for you. It's available to you. And that's not what the message you hear from this modern society. You don't hear that from the modern world. But I'm a real believer in it, you know? I was telling a story yesterday. Last year and a half ago, my niece contacted me and said, Uncle John, my first name is Jonathan. My middle name is Zan. So my family calls me John. Okay? So she said, Uncle John, ever since I was a little girl, she was getting married. Ever since I was a little girl, I always dreamed about that you were going to be the one to marry us. I'm like, what? I had no clue. She never mentioned this. I'm like, I can't marry you. I'm not a reverend. Well, you go online, you get ordained. I'm like, okay. So I went online and got ordained. I'm Reverend Jonathan Zan Perrion. and I got ordained, and I flew to Michigan a year and a half ago in the middle of COVID, and I thought, okay, it's going to be a small 8-person COVID wedding, right? Nope, it was a big, giant thing on the lake with swans and unicorns and floating things, and it was a giant, like you see in the movies with the gazebo and everything. I'm like, ah. And I was nervous. I was nervous to talk at her wedding. I only had to talk for 15 minutes or so. And I've done a lot of public speaking, and I do not get nervous. I was nervous there because I don't know why. I just really wanted to give a good message for her, you know, my niece. And I'll tell you what my message was, because this is to me, the essence of a loving, long-term, beautiful relationship that goes as long as it needs to go. That's available to you. Little tiny little secrets, I tell you. I know a lot. Devotion. This is what I said to them. I'm marrying them. They're here and here. The people are, 8 bridesmaids and 8 dudes. You're like, okay. And this is what I said, because I really believe it. I said, you and you gaze upon your beloved. This is your beloved. That's a word we don't use anymore. We use my significant other, my partner, date night, work on a relationship. We use these phrases that are soul-killing. And we don't have the concept of the beloved. This is my beloved in whom I am well pleased. And if you have that, if you look at your significant other as your beloved, something's changed already. It already has a magic and a mystique because that's your beloved. It's a biblical word. We don't use it anymore. But it's real. So look upon each other as your beloved, which we're starving for in this modern world. We're starved for that. And then do this. If you want your wife or your girlfriend or your husband, but I'll talk to men, I'm talking to men, so I'll say it from this perspective, but it's both ways. If you want devotion, which is another word we don't use, because you want devotion, you want to be devoted and adore your girl, and you want her to do the same thing too. Because I'll tell you this, if your wife or your girlfriend is not proud of who you are as a man, what's the point? If you're at a party and you're standing here talking to the guys and she's over there, and you glance over at her and you think, yeah, that's my girl. I'm proud of who she is as a person. I'm glad that I know her. And she's thinking the same thing. If she's not really on your side, your best supporter, your best cheerleader, and she wants you to succeed, and your business is failing, and she's there with you, if you don't have that devotion, that she's proud of who you are and what you're trying to do and what you're trying to become, what's the point? And how many relationships have that? So, how do you do it? It's up to you. Guys say, well, I just have to find the perfect girl. No. It's you set the tone. You set the tone. And it's simple. An example. And I've watched this for years. I've been studying this, thinking about this for years. All the greats in history, let's say it that way, all the men who have these beautiful, adoring relationships with beautiful women that they love, you know what they do? They all have in common? They give little seeds of appreciation every single day to her. Not giant compliments, not a bouquet of roses, not hot air balloons, no big gestures. They're on their computer, and she's walking by with a load of laundry or whatever. And he looks up and he says, my sweetie, I just want to take a look at you. That's all I have to say. And he goes back to playing Call of Duty. Little seeds of appreciation. And if you're proud and you're interested in what she's trying to do with her career, her life, and you want to know and you visit her, let's visit. I want to know. Tell me. Even if you don't understand it. My girl's an architect. She does these incredible designs and she works on AutoCAD, so I'm looking over her shoulder and people are like, what? I have no idea how you do that. But I'm interested. I spend a lot of time, I just realized this. I spend a lot of time visiting my girl. We've been together 10 years and I visit her. You want to visit? Okay. Have a glass of wine, sit on the balcony. Just visit. Little seeds of appreciation. If she feels that she's seen by you, if she feels that she's seen by you, she'll follow you to the ends of the earth. We get caught up in our jobs and I got this, my wife now, and that's taken care of, so now I gotta concentrate over here. All you have to do is see her every day. Anyway, that was kind of my speech at the thing. And I know that modern society is not constructed in that way. I know that the problem with marriage in the West is that the government puts a layer of something over it that makes it a little dicey for me. I get that. But if you have this concept of the beloved, and you retain that in your heart, all those things are protected against, you know? There's a conviction in men that's missing today. I was talking to the guys yesterday at the table, and they said, you know, the testosterone in men is way less than it was 50 years ago. I'm like, really? Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree. When I talk to guys, I say, hey, you're a horny guy, let's go. Maybe they're not. Because I am. You know? The feeling of that, I think your sexual energy, your desire to bend the world over, is God-given. And we hide it. But that's who we are. That's our masculine edge, as we call it. What's missing? And I'm thinking, wow, they don't feel the same thing as me. The guys say to me in coaching, they say, so how do I become more of a sexual creature? I'm thinking, you watch porn all day. Don't tell me you're not a sexual creature. It's just that you hide it from the world. You're afraid. Toxic. It's toxic. Shame, shame, shame. Shame on you. Right? But you think about anything that's been created in history, it's this thrusting, penetrating nature of man. That's what created all the cities. That's what our civilization is based upon. And it's a beautiful thing. So do not listen. Do not listen to the media, to the screeching voices that say, no, it's wrong. Don't listen to it. In all these years, I've been public speaking and writing. I wrote a book, and Alabaster Girl. Go to alabastergirl.com, get a copy, I'll sign it and send it to you when I go back to Romania. Wait. In all these years, you've never heard me say anything about social issues. I've been talking about men and women for many years. I don't talk about feminism. I don't talk about pornography, gender fluidity wars. All these social issues, I don't talk about them. I know they are impacting the daily life of men and women constantly. I get it. But there's enough voices talking about those things. I was on a radio show one time in Montreal, and it was a woman's, she has a sex radio show, and at the end of it she said, Zan, I asked all my guests this. What is your concept of, or what do you think about this, the idea of pornography? And I'm like, radio silence, you can't have that, right? I'm like, I don't have a response to that. And yes, I know that pornography is affecting our sense of the way we view our bodies, sense of intimacy. I get it. But I don't think on this. These social issues, what we do with Ars Amorata, what I do, is we run around it. Because you can't win. If you walk into the swamp, look at Dr. Jordan Peterson, bless his heart. He has a beautiful, kind, respectful, honorable message for young men. Take control of your clean your own room. Start there. You clean your room, all these rooms are cleaned, and there's some sensibility comes back into the world. It's a good message for men. But he's trying to fight Medusa, and it's destroying his health. You can't win, guys. Society and the media is too strong, right? We're trying to battle against it. Just go around it. Leave the screeching voices behind. Don't pay them any heed. Go around them. The Bible says, whatsoever things are lovely, think on these things. And I implore you to do that. Because it's upon you to go into your communities, into your relationships, into your life, as that man who's life-giving. The idea of masculinity as toxic is a sin. That idea is a sin. Masculinity is not toxic, it's missing. It's absent. There's a danger in the heart of men, which is your thrusting, desiring nature to bend the world over. That's how I view it anyway. You have this nature, you have this power to destroy. The guys are talking about it this weekend. This beautiful anger that's used as a tool as opposed to lose control. Anger is a beautiful tool. And we've been suppressing it all our lives, but anger is good. It's a beautiful tool to use. And the problem is this. Because we have this danger in our hearts, which is a beautiful, God-given, created way we are, the danger, the ability to defend and protect. And you know, the metaphor I use is the caveman's outside the cave, and his loved ones are inside. And he's fighting the saber-toothed tiger with a stick. That's all he's got. But he's going to fight because his loved ones are there, right? That spirit of danger, the ability and the desire to destroy something, to protect, okay? And the problem we have is when that danger, which is inherent in us, in men, is turned inward toward the cave. That's where you get relationship abuse, children molestation, school shootings, this idea of the incel, because the anger is directed in and not out here, lovingly out this way, and we're protecting. That's my metaphor. So I'm much a champion for men, and I have a lot of hope and I have a lot of faith in men, which you'll never hear anywhere in the modern age. I really believe in men. I think they're cool. And I think your masculine edge, your desire, your sexual nature, as I said, is divine. So do not listen to anybody that says anything else. Take it to heart. Understand it, love it, love it. Aristotle said, start with first principles. What do you know to be true? That's as simple as it needs to be. I talk about conviction. Men do not have this concept of conviction anymore. What does that mean? A 22-year-old guy will say to me, well, I don't have conviction. I don't know yet. I don't even know what I want to do with my life. I don't have conviction. Yes, you do. You know what you know. You start with first principles. What do you know to be true? I know that I'm standing on the street here with my friends. That's true. I know I see a girl over there who's attractive to me. I like the way she looks. That's a statement of truth that no one can say, that's not true. I negate that. That's a statement of truth. I would like to meet her. I would like to meet her. I'm with my friends, but I would like to walk over there and say, hello, I'm Zan. I would like to meet her. That's a statement of truth. You know that to be true. You're convicted of these things. There's a universal truth that you believe in your heart. You have conviction about these things. You can rest on that and say, at least I know that. And all you have to do when you go and talk to the girl is speak these statements. Say the truth you know. I was over there with my friends, and I saw you over here. Statement, and I had to come say hello. And I'm nervous. That's a statement too. But I had to come say hello anyway. What's your name? That's as simple as it is. And that's all you need. That's all you need. So, I'm watching the time here. I'll get some water. Is this landing with you guys? Yes, 100%. Testify. I'm fascinated by the concept of, I'm writing another book right now. I'll tell you briefly here. I'm writing this book. I've been struggling with it for a long time. I've got a lot of notes and a lot of words written, and I see it in my head. And if I can get this book out the way I feel it, that I'm envisioning it, I will love it. Probably more than The Alabaster Girl. I would love it so much if I get this book out of me. But it's hard. I'm not very prolific. I'm not a blogger. I don't write a bunch of essays, right? So I pick at it and look at it. But I think I'm going to break it into two books. Because I'm writing this, I want to write it's two different concepts. One is the concept of men, what I'm talking about here now, a man talking to his younger self. What I would have liked to hear from that future self. You know? So I'm thinking about breaking it into two books. The idea of self-help, which is, imagine this, we didn't have self-help in all of history. It's new, I think. Is it not new? We have this idea that before I can be standing on this earth as a well-rounded, confident man, I have to resolve my childhood, because my childhood sucked. I had all this abuse and all stuff happened to me. I've got to resolve my childhood, so I have to go to therapy. I have to medicate, which is our modern theme. But think of it this way. There has never been a happy childhood in any culture in any century. All childhoods were broken. The children were hungry, disease, famine, migration. Mother can't feed herself because she's feeding the children. Sister gets dragged away and raped. Dad gets dragged off to war. There's been no happy childhoods in all of history. We're the first generation that says, I have to come to terms with it. All other children in history said, well, okay, that sucked. I'm out. I'm out of here, man. They go build cities. We're the only ones that navel gaze and say, no, no, no. How come? Nurture me, nurture me. We're the only generation that does that. Imagine this. You say to me, oh, I went on an adventure. I backpacked across Europe for a year. That's not an adventure. You went from ATM to ATM. And you could all call mom if you run out of money. 300 years ago, those young men would go into the sea in a wooden ship. They had no medical insurance. They didn't have their savings saved up. They just went one way. They don't know where they're going. We have to have everything all plotted and planned and comforted. Comfort, comfort, comfort. We have so much comfort around us and we complain the most. And we say, I'm a victim and I need counseling. And I'm not against, careful counseling where it's needed. Right? But I tell you, self-help, 20 years ago I said the number one genre of books in the world is romance novels. That was true back then. You know what it is now? Self-help books. Everybody's got those books on their shelf. And you can always buy another one. You don't read them. You don't need to read them because I got the answer right there, right within. I have it there. Oh, this one, yeah, this one. And I'll buy this one too. And we have our little affirmations and our little Facebook things we stick on. Right? You don't need it. You know what? I had a broken childhood. I won't even go into that. I left home when I was 13. I went into the wilderness. Further into the wilderness. We were already in the wilderness. I went further into the wilderness. No electricity, no running water. I had a knife on my side, a rifle on my back. As a kid, teenager, and I helped a trapper named John Terry run a trap line. That's what I did. I know how to survive in the wilderness. I had to start a fire with my hands. I know how to catch a fish with my hands. 200 miles away from any civilization. No, not 200, 60 miles away, sorry. But far away, enough away, it's a major trip to go into town to get supplies. And I helped with the trap line. My formal education ended at 13. I have not gone to school since 13 years old. I'm an uneducated bum. I was a homeless bum too for a long time as I was traveling. At 18, I looked around and realized there's no girls. I got to get out of here. I love girls. And I came out into the world and I was completely unequipped socially. I was the most needy, petty, sticky, jealous guy because I didn't know I didn't go to university or college to get some social understanding. I didn't know. I got my understanding from movies, which are romantic comedies, which is the nice guy always wins at the end, and I don't think so. So I was really that guy, and it's embarrassing, back, the movie Hitch, where he flashes back to his college days, and he's got braces, and the girl's getting into the car with the cool guy, and he's like leaning against the window crying, I'll be there for you. I saw that in the movie theater, and I was like, because I did the exact same thing. I have an image of me. I'm not kidding. This is embarrassing to say. But I have exact same thing. I'm crying, probably 20 or 19 or something like that. she's getting on the back of a motorcycle, this girl I was dating, getting on the back of a motorcycle with some cool guy, and he's like, who's this guy? Who's this loser? She goes, I don't know, let's go. And I'm crying, and I'm saying, I know, I'll be here for you when you come back. Yeah, I was the quintessential nice guy who's, it's embarrassing, you know? And so I'm talking to that young guy. He doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to buy into any of the modern discourse. There's a better, beautiful message. My thesis, well, I'll say it this way. Nietzsche said, God is dead. And everybody knows this quote, right? And we think, okay, well, Nietzsche was affirming my atheist beliefs. Yeah, he's an atheist too. Nietzsche was a staunch atheist. But the rest of the quote is this. He said, God is dead, God will remain dead, and we have killed him. So what he was really saying, get ready, because when you strip God and the transcendent out of modern society, good luck. And he was an atheist. But he knew the saving grace and the salvation of community that the concept of God and the transcendent had for communities around the world. You strip it out, and look what we have today. Political, unrest, relationships, antagonistic. No sense of the beloved that we used to have. Right? That's why we have this turmoil today and this angry discourse. My thesis is this. That's what I'm trying to write about, and it's hard. The Alabaster Girl came out of my experience, 100% my experience. For 10 years, I wrote that book. And the whole time I was writing it, I never read a book. And I love books. I'd go into an airport bookstore, and I love bookstores. I'd go into a bookstore, and I'd be in there for like 3 minutes, and I'm like, I felt guilty because I should be working on my book and not. And I also didn't want to influence it anyway. So I didn't read a book for 10 years, I'm no kidding. And I dumped it out of my system, and it was vomited out of me. And I was empty. I did public speaking for the next 2 years after that. I'm like, I have nothing to say, because it's all there. And I'd start to tell a little story or anecdote, and the people in the audience go, yeah, as I'm saying it, because they read it in my books, and I have stalled. So, as you can tell, I don't talk about anything I know. I'm talking about what I'm interested in knowing, what I'm curious about right now, what I'm thinking about when I sit in my rocking chair. This is what I'm thinking about. That's cool. So Nietzsche said God is dead. And what we have, the symptom of our modern times, sorry, my voice is scratchy. The symptom of our modern times is that we've turned our face away. This is what I 100% believe. We've turned our face away in all things, in art, in architecture, in relationships, in politics. We've turned our face away from beauty. And we celebrate ugliness. Art, for example. Where's Arthur? Is he here? Right? Art used to be about the art, to show you something, to give you a transcendent experience into something beyond. And now, it's all about the artist. How can I shock you? Look at me, celebrate me. Our symptom of our self-medicated, victim, me generation. And so we've turned, art now is like shit on a stick. Or Tracy Emin's unmade bed, bought by the Tate Museum in London for 2,000 euros. No, 2 million euros, what am I saying? 2 million euros. Her unmade bed. She said, there's some vodka bottles and a used condom, and she sold it to the Tate Museum. And it's still there, gathering dust and some mold on it and stuff, because they paid £2 million for it. So it's all about look at me, notice me, look at me. And art used to be about giving you an experience to connect to the transcendent, the divine. I don't care if you're religious or not. I don't care if you believe in God or not. Here's the thing. Whether you're Buddhist or Muslim, Christian, atheist, you know what the common denominator we all have? We all have the longing for beauty. We all get a tear when we see a painting that moves us. And beauty has a quality of dawning on us. It dawns on us and we become aware of something. It stops us in our tracks. You get goosebumps, what the French called frisson. And science cannot explain how we get, why or how we get goosebumps. They can't explain it. But because you're touching, you're reaching out to something that we've lost and we're all longing for, a notion of the transcendent, whatever that is to you. That's what we're longing for. That's the deficit in our society. That's why we're broken. Men are not toxic. Men are heartbroken. Your heart has been broken by society in the modern age. You're not wrong. No one teaches you how to do life. You can forgive yourself everything because nobody teaches you how to do life. You're sincere. If you are sincere, if your heart is sincere and you really have an honest effort to go forward, you can forgive yourself all seeming mistakes. Because you're sincere. You're a good boy. It's going to be okay. And the modern society will say, no, that's not true. So my whole thing is, my whole belief is that we've turned our face away from beauty. And I don't think beauty is in the eye of the beholder or subjective or objective. I think beauty is a real physical thing, as in physics. I think when the universe began, whether it was a prime mover that created it or the Big Bang that created it, at that moment, just like gravity, just like molecules, just like everything, beauty was a physical thing, an electromagnetic field that was created. And it's a layer we all feel. You can feel it when you hear music. Some music will move you to tears or give you a shiver down your spine. That's connecting to something beyond our ken, beyond our experience. Music has a quality, I was talking about this yesterday, it's incredible, that nothing else on earth has. If you see ballerinas on the stage here, Swan Lake, and they're floating around, they look like musical notes. You could imagine the metaphor of musical notes, right? They're moving and interacting, and it's beautiful, right? And it's light and airy, ease and delight. And you see this, it's like musical notes. However, at any one given moment on that stage, one ballerina passes behind, for a split second, behind another and is obscured, and then comes out the other side. Music does not have that quality. If you take one musical note and you pass another music note behind it, you get harmony. You can see through one note to the next. That's incredible. No musical note obscures another. It adds layers, creates a new transcendent thing. That's why music moves us so much. It's the closest thing to the divine we have. It's a direct conduit. Incredible. And that musicality is what we're missing. We all have the longing, Odysseus. The oldest story in the Western culture is the Odyssey. Odysseus is trying to go back home. He wants to go home to Ithaca. That's all we're longing for in this modern age too. There's a discordant tone in the air because we haven't returned to the home note. We haven't landed back home. We can feel it. We feel discombobulated, disenfranchised, angry, jaded. That's what you're feeling in this modern age. And we're all longing for home, and we don't know how to get there. We have a longing for what we don't know what we're longing for. And my thesis is this beauty. To reclaim beauty in our hearts, in our mind. Beauty doesn't need us to save it, because it's there. It's physical. It's real, I think. I think it's a real thing. But you all know, when you see a painting that moves you, when you see a sunset, when you see the smile of your beloved smiling upon you and saying, I'm here for you. What a heartbreak, we're missing that. It's not fair that we're missing that. It's not fair that we don't have that. Right? It's not fair. We have to reclaim it. We have to fight for it. We have to go there. And I talk a lot about conviction in men. I'll tell you a little story here, actually. Take my water. Here's the difference between men and women. I say a lot of absolutes. This is women and this is men. There was a study done where they took mothers and their little toddlers, little girls, and they took them into a room, and they didn't tell the mothers anything except for this instruction. The room was full of toys, and in the middle of the room was a low table, a small table with a toy cow. And the instruction to the mother was, your child can play with anything in the room, but you can't touch the toy cow. So the mother would come in there with a child, the cameras and all this kind of stuff. She'd say, okay, sweetie, you can play with anything in the room here, but you can't touch that toy cow. Of course, now it's the object of desire, right? And the little girl's like, and they're playing with a doll over here and a toy truck over here, and they keep looking at the cow, and then they look at their mother's face, like this. And mother just has to raise an eyebrow. And the little girl goes back to playing with the doll, right? You can envision this, right? They did the same experiment now with mothers and little boys. Same instructions. And the mother would say, sweetie, listen, you can play with all the great toys here, but you can't touch a toy cow. And now, again, it's the object of desire. The difference was this. The little boys headed straight for the cow and had to be restrained by mother. They never once looked at their mother's face. That's the difference between men and women. We all want the same great things. We all want the same successes, the same equality of outcome. We all want this. We want it. And it's a beautiful, noble thing. The difference is men do it staring at that, and women do it in the context of others. Women have been reading faces their whole lives, and you have not. That's why they have far more social understanding than you do. What can I say? It's interesting, no? I think it's interesting. So, anyway, that's kind of my talk, guys, about the idea and about reclaiming beauty. And I think that if we can turn our hearts toward that and not walk into the discourse, you can't win. If you try and wade into the conversation that's all over the media and all over social media and all over the world right now, you can't win. It'll break your health, break your heart. But I really believe in something. I believe there's a good message for you. There's something waiting for you. There's blessings for you. I really believe it. Come away. Come away from it all. Come away, O human child, from the water and the wild, with a fairy hand in hand. For the world's more full of weeping than you can understand. It's true. There's sadness in the world. There's sadness in your heart. Men are sad. Women are sad. And it's our lot in life. But you take that sadness, which is a component of beauty. You create beautiful things for others. You're carrying the fire. When I'm talking to you, I'm sitting in my rocket chair going forward here. I'm sitting there. So I'm not going to be doing this. It's up to you and you and you. You're carrying fire for the village. Don't you dare drop it. Go and do thou likewise. We can't wait for somebody to give us a good message. There's no father figure going to come and say, hey, here's what you do. It's on you. As I said, there was no happy childhoods in history, and they got off and they built our civilization. I think about guys like Casanova 300 years ago or 250 years ago. They couldn't go from ATM to ATM. If he wanted to go from Paris to Warsaw, he had to ride in a carriage in the middle of winter with furs on his lap, freezing cold, with no springs, bumping all the way. And it would take him 8 days. And he went there one way with no money. But he wrote in his memoir beautifully his philosophy, which I read when I was 18. I'm like, I want this. He wrote, I just trusted I relaxed in the arms of life and trusted that it would take me where I would have to be. He trusted, and he loved it. Yeah, so that's the message I wish I had had when I was young, and I didn't have it. And a message that's for you. And when you have the concept of the beloved in your heart, which we need to return to, we need to recall this back into our vocabulary, into our voice. If you're looking at her like she's my beloved, she'll feel it across the way. Because it's physics, it's an energy, it's quantum physics, and that's a quantum entanglement. She can feel it. There's a vibration happening between you and your loved one, and vice versa. If she's proud of you, if she's thinking about you and proud of you, like right now, I know my girl is, you could feel it. It's in your heart. It's like, I'm good. You can say whatever, you can attack me however you want. I don't care because I got her. So my message is a message of hope. And after 20 years of standing on stages and coaching men all over the world, I have a lot of hope, a lot of faith. I really believe. I really believe in this, in trying to have a better conversation. I really do. So I have 15 minutes left. I can take a question. Everybody wants to ask me a question. Or what else can I riff on?
So I have a question how you said that men are asking you today, how do I become a more sexual creature?
Yeah.
And you said you've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah.
Has that changed in 20 years? Like people weren't asking that? And,
No. Oh, sorry.
Okay. And you seem to say that you think this is because the media is like telling men to suppress their desires. But I wonder if it's also because, like you said, there's this lack of beauty that it is changing men's desires because
Wow, what a
beauty is
thought.
absent.
I never thought about that. But yeah, something is broken in our perspective, in our hearts of men, you know? And to say that that masculinity is toxic, it's such a sinful thing to say. Because masculinity is our divine nature, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about this chauvinistic control domination. I don't talk about that. I'm talking about true masculinity, which is wrapped awash in respect and kindness and curiosity and empathy, you know, all these beautiful things. People read my book and they read the tops of the bumps. They go over the bumps like this and they read, oh, Zan says that curiosity, authenticity, and complimenting. I do all these things already, and they become a nice guy. And they miss the bottom part of the book, which is the God-given sexual nature, which is our beautiful energy to bend the world over, which women are starved for, men are starved for. So yeah, that idea that sexuality is something that we should be ashamed of, yeah, that's a sin, you know? And here's the thing. Here's what women don't know. I'm going to talk to the women later today. I'll say this. Somebody remind me to say it. What women don't know is they have this capacity to rebirth men. They birth men, right? And they have the ability to rebirth men. When you make love to a woman that is beautiful to you, maybe quote unquote out of your league, and she willingly receives you, as opposed to you getting her drunk and, you know, banging her. She willingly opens herself to you, says, I receive you. And any of you men will know what I'm talking about here. The moment you penetrate and enter into this inviting spirit, all is forgiven. Because of her. Because of all your rejections, all the hurts you've caused, all the hurts you've received. In that moment, you almost get a tear in your eye because all is forgiven because someone receives you and says, yes, I receive you. I invite you. That's a heartbreaking thing for men. And women don't know they have that capacity. But it really rebirths us and makes us feel that I can stand on this earth. And, you know, there's a lot of men's movements with a lot of men, surrounded by men. But we can't have a men's movement without the saving grace of the female spirit around it, wrapped around it. It has to be, the tide has to rise all the boats at once. That's why, you know, we have this feminist movement over here, and it's raising its voices here, and the men's movement is over here raising their voices. But if we don't do it together, It has to fail. It's going to fail. Okay.
You talked a little bit about going around the culture, and I don't remember exactly how you put it, but going around, putting the voices out of your mind and finding a different way. I'm curious if, and pardon me if I'm getting a few of these facts wrong, but my understanding is you and a bunch of other guys in the manosphere, like Roosh, I think Andrew Tate perhaps, ended up in Romania. I'm wondering if that was a response or a coordinated effort of some kind.
That's a good question. I was traveling for years with a carry-on suitcase and one pair of shoes. And I lived for 3 months in Montreal, 3 months in Panama, 3 months in South Africa, just all over, just wandering. And homeless bum. And I ended up, you know what? I went to Nicaragua to work on my book. My book is 90% done, The Alabaster Girl. And I thought, man, I need to be put in jail for 3 months or stuck in a desert island so I can finish this damn thing, you know? So I artificially did it. I went to a small fishing village in Nicaragua for 4 months. Nobody spoke any English. I ate 1 fish a day and I learned a bit of Spanish. And I sat there watching the fishermen go out. And I sat there in the edge of the jungle and to work on the book. And the people were so full of light, poor, nothing to their names. And I remember this one young guy and his family would ride the bicycle, and he'd walk beside the bicycle, and his 2 kids and his wife was riding on the bicycle. He would come by, and I say, he's buying another bicycle. How much does the bicycle cost? Oh, senor, I don't know. And I go to the town of Leon, and here's some bicycles, and they're $50. Incredible, man. But that family was so beautiful, so happy, so full of light and joy. And I was surrounded by this, and watching these people and how happy they were, and they had nothing. And I'm from the West, right? Or from modern culture. And I flew from there to do a major conference in Amsterdam. I went from 4 months in the jungle to Amsterdam, and I'm sitting surrounded by guys, and they're introducing themselves and saying, yeah, I'm so-and-so, and they're afraid to talk to girls. They feel like I'm lost in this world. I'm thinking, man, it just really shocked my heart. That's why I came up with the phrase that I wrote in my book: every great life has had in it a great renunciation. Every great life has had in it a great renunciation. Those people had nothing, they were happy. The men I'm talking to were completely unhappy, right? And so, and the long-winded question, or answer to your question, one of the guys in the audience in Amsterdam said, I'm from Romania and I invite you to my country. I'm like, Romania? If you're Canadian like me, or American, you come to Europe, you go to Spain, you go to Italy, you go to France, right? And so you never think to go to Romania, but I accept all invitations. You invite me, I'm going to come. So I went there for a month, and I stopped traveling. There's something in I did the 23andMe test, and my grandfather is Ukrainian, born in Ukraine, but I found out they're born on the border of Romania and Ukraine. And I'm Canadian. My father's Canadian, but my ancestry, my dad's side, was all northern Romania. And so I think I just landed in my DNA and area, and the weather's what I like, and I just stayed. I've been there 10 years now, more than 10 years. So I don't know why the other guys went there. I've never met them.
Okay, I just thought it was curious that everyone ended up.
Yeah, but it's just that, it suits me in some way. That's all I know. I stopped traveling. I'm like, good now. I got a rocking chair. I'm good.
I've heard the women are nice too.
The women are not bad. Yes.
Yep.
Only thing I've ever loved in my entire life, my only thing I've ever adored is women. All my hobbies. I play just enough guitars, I'm serious. The guys would go fishing, I remember they would go fishing off Vancouver Island back in the day and say, we're going to go out there and we're going to cast nets and we're going to grow beards. And we're going to be, man, 2 weeks. Oh, yeah, I want to do this too. That's cool. There's not going to be women out there? And I would not go. I just adore women, and there's an abundance of women in Romania for sure, my kind, my DNA kind, so obviously, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zan.
You
that was
bet.
great. Some of these are comments. Maybe there's a question at the end, but it's just as you were speaking, it really resonated with me, and I realized what we're dealing with in culture. You go the last couple of years, we've been conditioned, talking about beauty, that You know, that the masks that don't work, we were told to believe that. Vaccines that we're told to believe in that obviously don't work. We're told to celebrate fat chicks on the cover of Sports Illustrated. We're being told that we're supposed to celebrate an unmade bed and shit on a stick. And it's just, it gets confusing, especially for young men. Like, you know, and now boys they want them to be girls. And it seems like this is just the world's way of trying to humiliate us or emasculate us in another way as men. And not only is your message a message of hope, it really is a call. I don't know if call of duty is the right thing, but that we need men, good dangerous men to get out there. And that's really what I heard from you.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's a question or comment.
That stuff is floating around us in the consciousness of the world, you know? These things are something good stripped of beauty. For instance, pornography, which I never really talk about. Pornography is intimacy stripped of beauty. And I don't judge anything. The thing about pornography, when the video ends and the screen goes dark, all you see is yourself reflected. We're missing the beauty concept of it. And all the things you just described is society stripped of beauty, art stripped of beauty, like I said, political conversation stripped of beauty. We've turned our face away from it to our deficit, to our peril. Nietzsche warned about it. The last 200 years, science and technology, which I love science and technology. I'm a futurist. I like it. I want to know. But we've replaced anything of the transcendent, the call to a higher power, whatever that is. We've replaced it with science and technology, and we have no place to turn. So all the things you just described exist. I get it. And why think on these things? You know? Consider something else. Consider the concept of, if you head towards beauty, guys say to me, because I've been saying for years, you know, head toward the light, and only the light. And they say to me, what if there is no light? Which is exactly what you just described. There is no light. Well, then, be the light. You have to stand on the earth and stand up and forgive yourself. Look in the mirror. Put your arm around yourself virtually, because nobody's going to do it. We can stay victims and stay hurt and or we can say, you know what, I've got you, and I'm with you. It's a conscious choice. And so I said, be the light. It's incumbent upon you. I can't talk to everybody, you know? And I really believe it for my young self. So I believe it for you too. We don't need to hammer against these things or be discouraged because this is, wow, how did it go so wrong? Let's create something out of it. Create something, go around it, and let's have a good conversation over here. Let's sit in the company of women again, which we adore, and the company of men again, which we adore, as opposed to the battle and the fight and the whole thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, come visit me. I have a course you can sign up for. I have a membership. We have members for 15 years. I have a membership called the Amorati. Ars Amorata is fake Latin. Ars Amorata doesn't mean anything. But what happened was, about 20 years ago, a woman introduced or interviewed me for Maclean's magazine in Canada. And she said, Zan's influences are Casanova's memoirs and the Ars Amatoria from Ovid, the Roman poet, 2,000 years ago. He wrote a book called the Ars Amatoria, which is real Latin, and it means the book of the art of love. And it was, you know, a book for men and young Roman men how to get a wife and how to seduce a girl. The Ars Amatoria. But she misspelled it in her article to Ars Amorata. So I absconded it. I took it. It's a registered trademark, and I've had it as my brand for all these years. It doesn't mean anything. So we have Ars Amorata, and then we have the Amorati, which is also fake Latin, which is my membership. It's the guys, we've got hundreds of members around the world for 15 years. We have a conference twice a year. I just came 2 weeks ago from a major conference, my own conference, in Romania. And we had a big party on the Friday night to start it, with all of these guys came from around the world. We invite all the girls we know. And this is just a side note, I got a minute left. And guess who crashed my party, who I haven't seen in 8 years? They showed up at the party. It was a mystery from back in the pickup artist days. Mystery showed up, and Mystery and Bex are like, what are you guys doing here? They came, and they're still in Romania. They came to the party, and it was, I haven't seen them in years. Incredible. 20 years, I think, you know, I didn't get a chance because I had to fly here. I wanted to talk to Mystery, you know. 20 years ago, you were this famous pickup artist guy, 15 years ago. What hath God wrought in your life? What have you learned? What's changed for you? I didn't get a chance to ask him. I'm curious. Aren't you curious about that? Motivation. Why this rather than that? I'll tell you one more quick story related to motivation, because motivation to me is the most fascinating thing. That's what I'm trying to write about. Why are we drawn towards something and not something else? And the story I have is this. When I was a boy, maybe 10 years old, I saw a preacher. And the preacher was talking in front of a group of about 20 people, 15, 20 people. And he was smiling and benevolent and leaning into the crowd. And he was preaching his message of the end is near. He's a Seventh-day Adventist preacher. And he was talking about, you know, like how I want this great message for you to receive God into your hearts because the end is near, you know. And he was benevolent and kind and rejoicing in his message. And 20 people sitting around like this. And I remember him. And he said this phrase, I'll never forget, he said this phrase, I want you to get this good message because I have a real burden for young people. I have a burden in my heart for young people. I remember him saying that. I've always thought about that, right? 45 years later, or whatever it's been, somebody sends me a YouTube video of the guy. I was a little boy when I saw him last. And somebody sent me a YouTube video, and here's this old guy now with a group of 15, 20 people. And he's smiling and benevolent. He's old, and he's saying this message of this great message. I want you to know this and get God in your hearts because the end is near. And I'm excited for you to get this and have a real burden for young people. He said this on the YouTube video. I'm like, what? And I said, I have to go find this guy. So I flew across the world to see him because I had to find out why did you never get discouraged? No one listened to your message then, and you never flagged. You never got discouraged. You kept saying it. You still believed. You still had a good message that you believed, and you still had this burden for young people. How did you never get discouraged, never grew, never got expansive, and your audience has never grown? It's just the same thing. You never lost hope. That you were motivated to keep going. I said, I have to know. And I sat at his feet and said, you got to tell me. Old guy, I went to see him, flew up to see him. And he looked at me and goes, I said, why did you never get discouraged and quit? He said, well, I think I just have a burden for young people. And then he died. Died just shortly after that, cancer. I'm thinking, what else is there? Why, do I have that? Do you have that? Never got discouraged, just pure motivation. You know, that to me is shocks my heart. And that's where it has to go for us, for you men. That's my story.